Back in time to the Wild West, where chaos reigned and legends were born. This remarkable era in American history was a wild ride through lawlessness, and it's a story worth telling. You've probably heard about the daring exploits of Billy the Kid, Jesse James, and other rugged male outlaws who left their mark on the Old West. But what you might not know is that these daring tales aren't just a boys' club. Brace yourself, because we're about to introduce you to some unforgettable female outlaws who were just as notorious. These feisty ladies weren't content with traditional roles as homemakers and child rearers. No siree, they decided to flip the script and dive headfirst into lives of adventure, debauchery, and scandal. Their stories are a testament to the Wild West's untamed spirit, where anyone, regardless of gender, could become a legend. Get ready to meet some incredible women who broke all the rules and left their own unforgettable mark on the Wild West. Welcome back to West America Facts. Today, we're gonna take a wild ride through the dusty trails of the Wild West and introduce you to 10 daring and downright scandalous female outlaws who ruled the frontier. These gals weren't your typical ladies, they were sharpshooters, bank robbers, and rebels who stood tall in a time when the West was wild indeed. So, if you want to learn about the untamed women who left their mark on history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us for more thrilling stories from the past. You won't want to miss it. Number 10. Pearl Hart. In 1871, in the tranquil town of Lindsay, Canada, a captivating saga unfurled. Pearl, a privileged young girl with an insatiable thirst for adventure, found herself torn between books and the call of the unknown. At just 17, her life took a riveting twist when she eloped to the vibrant streets of Chicago with Frederick Hart, a charismatic gambler harboring a sinister side. By the age of 22, Pearl faced a heart-wrenching choice, disappearing from Frederick's clutches forever. Pearl's odyssey led her to the unforgiving deserts of Arizona, where destiny introduced her to Joe Boot, a rugged miner with a heart of gold. Together, they formed an improbable alliance, their love forged in the crucible of adversity. But as their meager earnings from Joe's toilsome mining dwindled, desperation whispered temptations that would plunge them into the perilous world of robbery and intrigue. In 1899, Pearl and Joe embarked on a daring plan. Pearl disguised herself as a man, and they robbed a stagecoach, taking over $400 from terrified passengers. Despite their criminal ways, Pearl couldn't leave her victims destitute and returned some of the money to ensure their survival. With their stolen fortune, Pearl and Joe fled into the desert, but soon became hopelessly lost. The sheriff and his gang closed in, capturing them just 3 miles from the crime scene. During her trial, Pearl famously declared, "I won't accept being judged by a law that didn't consider women's voices," but her conviction followed nonetheless. Pearl Hart made history as Arizona's second woman to rob a stagecoach and the first to survive. Journalists flocked to her, eager to capture her image with her trusty gun. After 18 months, she received a pardon, officially due to a lack of facilities for women in prison. But rumors hinted at a more intriguing reason: a possible pregnancy. Post-prison, she briefly joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show but mostly lived a quiet life, far from the reach of the law. Number 9. Laura Bullion, aka the Rose of the Wild Bunch. Bullion's life began with a twist of trouble. Her dad, a Native American, had a knack for robbing banks. As she grew up, she found herself in a tough spot, working as a young lady in the business of companionship. But then, something changed. Bullion decided to join the Wild Bunch gang and earned herself a nickname, the Rose of the Wild Bunch. She dabbled in selling stolen stuff and made pals who kept the gang's horses coming. Love was in the air, too, as she had a thing with a few gang members, on and off. Sometimes, she'd even swap her dress for pants and ride alongside the gang when they went after trains. In 1901, things took a tough turn for her in St. Louis. The law caught her with a whopping $8,500 in stolen banknotes. She spent 3.5 years behind bars. But when she got out, she decided to hang up her criminal boots for good. Bullion settled down in Memphis, Tennessee, where she turned into an interior designer. Time rolled on, and in 1961, Bullion passed away due to heart disease. Her final resting place bears a fitting tribute, a rose and thorny vines etched on her gravestone, with the words "The Thorny Rose." She was the last member of the Wild Bunch to ride into the sunset. Number 8. Belle Siddons, aka Madame Vestal. Belle Siddons, a true Southern belle, was born and raised on a fancy Southern plantation. Her family in St. Louis was not just rich, but also had lots of political clout. When she turned 25, Belle put her good looks to use during the Civil War by becoming a spy for the Confederate side. But she got caught and spent 4 long months in prison before getting a pardon. Later on, Belle tied the knot with a guy named Newt Hallett, who was quite the gambler. He taught her the ropes of card games, and it turns out she had a knack for it. Belle became a famous dealer of the game 21, and people loved to play at her table. Life took a tough turn when her husband fell victim to yellow fever and passed away. Belle had to fend for herself, so she headed to the gold rush in South Dakota. There, she set up her own place with dancing, a bar, and gambling, quite the happening spot. People started calling her Madame Vestal, and she was the queen of her own domain. She crossed paths with a daring stagecoach bandit named Archie McLaughlin in her own place, and their love story blossomed. Siddons, with her charm and cleverness, took on a secret mission, squeezing information out of stagecoach drivers and passing it to her sweetheart. But trouble came knocking when Siddons' confidence got the better of her. One fateful night, she accidentally revealed plans for a robbery. McLaughlin was caught, put on trial, and met a grim fate on the gallows. Afterward, Siddons became a wandering soul, often seen drowning her sorrows in alcohol. The last known record of her was an arrest in San Francisco in 1881. Number 7. Rose Dunn, aka Rose of the Cimarron. Born in Oklahoma in 1879, Dunn's life took an unexpected turn. Raised in a convent in Wichita, Kansas, she stood out with her beauty and charm. But it was her older outlaw brothers who steered her down a different path, teaching her the skills of shooting and riding. Love can lead us to unexpected places, and for Dunn, it led her into the heart of the Wild Bunch Gang, led by the notorious Bill Doolin. This gang, also known as the Oklahombas, made a name for themselves by robbing banks and stopping trains. But their journey ended in violence and tragedy. Dunn's role in the gang was unique. She didn't rob banks or hold up trains herself. Instead, she played a crucial part by supplying ammunition and other necessities when the gang couldn't venture into town. One of her boldest moments happened when she saved her beloved George Bittercreek Newcomb, a member of the Wild Bunch Gang. When U.S. Marshals injured him, she bravely stood her ground, defending him with her own rifle until he could escape to safety. This is a gripping story of love, loyalty, and bravery that has become a legendary part of the Wild West. Dunn's brothers, who had left their lives as outlaws to become bounty hunters, killed Newcomb, possibly for a $5,000 reward each. Some people believed that Dunn may have disclosed Newcomb's whereabouts to her brothers, but she and her siblings always claimed her innocence. Surprisingly, Dunn was never taken to court for her association with the gang, and she eventually settled down with a local politician. Number 6. Sarah Jane Newman, aka Sally Skull. Meet Sarah Jane Newman, a true Texan pioneer from way back in 1817. She was one tough cookie, growing up in Austin, Texas territory, where her family had to fend off constant attacks on their land. Rumor has it that her mom, Rachel Newman, once even had to chop off the toes of a Comanche Indian who tried to barge through their front door. At just 16, Sarah Jane tied the knot with Jesse Robinson, and they became parents to 2 lovely kids. But life took a turn when Jesse filed for divorce after a decade together. Sarah Jane wasted no time and quickly married a guy with the same name as her, George Skull. However, things got mysterious when George passed away in 1849. Sarah Jane's life was full of adventure, and her story is one for the books. Sarah Jane's next husband, John Doyle, also met an untimely end after a brief marriage. Inheriting her mother's fearless spirit, Skull gained quite a reputation for her unique style. She was known for dressing like a man, wielding guns, and striking deals in the horse trade. Every year, she would embark on the perilous journey to Mexico all by herself, returning with horses that were suspected to be stolen. Although no concrete evidence was ever found, it's whispered that she might have been responsible for the demise of 2 out of her 5 husbands. Sarah Jane Skull was truly a force to be reckoned with. Number 5. Mary Catherine Harrony, aka Big Nose Kate. Mary Catherine Harrony was born into a wealthy Hungarian family which immigrated to New York City in 1860 and settled in Davenport, Iowa. Kate's parents died several years later when she was 14, and she was placed in the foster care system. As she grew older, Kate decided to take her fate into her own hands. At the tender age of 16, she bravely ran away from her caregiver. Her adventurous spirit led her onto a steamboat bound for St. Louis, where she encountered a dentist. In a twist of fate, they fell in love and got married, but sadly, her husband fell victim to the dreaded yellow fever. After her husband's passing, Kate's life took yet another unexpected turn. She briefly sought solace in a convent before finding herself in a much different profession. She worked as a prostitute in the bustling city of St. Louis. But the story doesn't end there. Kate's journey continued as she made her way to Fort Griffin, Texas. It was there that she crossed paths with the famous gunfighter and dentist, Doc Holliday. By then, she had earned herself the colorful nickname Big Nose Kate. Introduced her friend Holliday to Wyatt Earp, a famous gambler and lawman. From that moment on, Kate and Holliday became partners in adventure. They traveled all over the country together, with Holliday gambling, working as a dentist, and running saloons, while Kate had her own job. Their journey eventually led them to the cozy town of Tombstone in Arizona. Kate would visit Holliday there, even during the days before the famous gunfight at the O.K. Corral, which is one of the Wild West's most talked about shootouts. Their story is one of wild times and unforgettable moments. Number 4. Belle Starr. Back in 1848, Myra May Belle Shirley was born into a well-off family in Missouri. You might think she'd grow up to be a proper young lady, marrying a rich man, and leading a dull life. But Myra, who later became known as Starr, had different plans. Instead of sitting in an all-girls school, she'd rather be outside, learning to shoot guns with her older brother, Bud. Starr's fate took a wild turn when her family moved to Syene, Texas, in 1864. It was there that she crossed paths with the infamous Jesse James Gang, known for robbing banks, trains, and stagecoaches in many states. Starr had known these outlaws since her Missouri days. In 1866, Starr tied the knot with Jim Reed, a horse thief. Things got even more dramatic in 1869 when Jim killed a man he believed had taken his brother's life. After the murder, they both hightailed it to California. Unfortunately, Jim's story ended tragically in 1874 when he was shot to death. After becoming a widow, Belle became part of the Starr clan and married a Cherokee man named Samuel Starr. This new chapter in her life marked the beginning of her legendary outlaw journey. She immersed herself in a life of crime. Belle evolved into the brains behind the gang's operations. Though she faced several arrests, escaping the clutches of sheriffs seemed almost as easy as her horse-stealing exploits. They could never gather enough proof to put her behind bars, and she often used the profits from her profitable horse thieving and bootlegging endeavors to sway them. In 1886, Belle's husband Sam Starr died. She married Jim July Starr to secure her land in Indian Territory. But in 1889, while riding home from a neighbor's house, Belle was shot multiple times with a shotgun, and her killer remains unknown. Number 3. Etta Place. Most well known as Butch Cassidy's girlfriend and, later, the wife of Harry Longabaugh, the Sundance Kid, Etta Place is shrouded in mystery. She is said to have been from Texas. Meet Etta Place, the enigmatic lady in the life of Butch Cassidy and later the wife of Harry Longabaugh, famously known as the Sundance Kid. She hails from the Lone Star State, Texas, adding a touch of southern charm to her mysterious story. Etta Place's life is like a puzzle waiting to be solved. She's not just a bystander in the Wild Bunch gang's adventures, she's right there in the thick of it. Picture her as the sweetheart who stood by Cassidy and Longabaugh in their daring heists, and when the heat got too intense in the U.S., she didn't run, she fled with them all the way to Argentina. But what happened to her after Longabaugh's passing? That's the real mystery. We're left in the dark about her later life, making Etta Place a captivating figure wrapped in intrigue. Join us on a journey to uncover the secrets of this remarkable woman's life. Theories have suggested that she and Ann Bassett, one of the famous cattle-rustling Bassett sisters, were one and the same because of similar looks and their ties to the Wild Bunch gang. Photographic evidence analyzed by historians in recent years has suggested this may be the case. Number 2. Eleanor Dumont, aka Madame Mustache. Back in the 1800s, there lived a mysterious woman named Dumont. We're not entirely sure where she was born, but it might have been in New Orleans. She was known for her incredible skills at playing cards during the gold rush days. Dumont was a real wanderer. She moved around a lot and eventually ended up in Nevada City, California. There, she did something quite unexpected. She opened her very own gambling house. People couldn't help but be drawn to her charm, which was even more captivating than her good looks. Now, here's where the story takes a twist. Dumont fell head over heels in love with a man named Jack McKnight, who turned out to be a tricky con artist. He not only took her money but also sold her beloved ranch. In a bold move, Dumont decided to take matters into her own hands. She tracked down McKnight and, well, let's just say she settled the score. After that intense encounter, Dumont went back to what she did best, gambling. Her life was like something straight out of a wild western adventure. As Dumont grew older, she gained some extra weight, and a noticeable line of hair appeared above her lip, which led folks to affectionately call her Madame Mustache. As time went on, her luck took a turn for the worse. She turned to a less reputable profession, working in a brothel as its manager during her later years. In 1879, a single night of gambling left her $300 in debt, money she had borrowed. Tragically, the next morning, she was discovered lifeless, seemingly having taken an overdose of morphine in an act of despair. Number 1. Bonnie Parker. Back in 1910, in the small Texan town of Rowena, a young and ambitious girl named Bonnie Parker was born. Bonnie had big dreams of becoming a famous actress, and her bright spirit shone like a beacon of hope. Her life was just beginning, full of promise and potential. But as fate would have it, Bonnie's life was destined for a dramatic twist. In the year 1930, at the tender age of 19, Bonnie's path collided with that of a 20-year-old ex-convict named Clyde Barrow. Their encounter was nothing short of electric, and in that moment, they fell deeply in love. It was a love story for the ages, but it was also the beginning of an incredible and notorious partnership that would become the stuff of legends. Bonnie didn't just become a part of Clyde's life, she joined his gang, thrusting herself into a world of crime, thrill, and danger. Together, they embarked on a daring journey, becoming full-time outlaws, thieves, and even murderers. Their escapades would soon capture the imagination of the entire nation, and they would go on to etch their names into the annals of history as one of the most infamous criminal duos of all time. From small-town dreams to a life of infamy, Bonnie and Clyde's story is a captivating tale of love, crime, and adventure that continues to captivate the hearts and minds of people to this day. Bonnie and Clyde went on a wild adventure of crime that lasted for 2 whole years, spanning 5 different states and tragically taking the lives of 13 innocent people. Then, in 1933, the law finally caught up with Bonnie and Clyde. The police issued a warrant for their arrest, and the end was near. In 1934, a dramatic showdown occurred when Texas Ranger Frank Harmer ambushed them, bringing their notorious crime spree to a dramatic and final close. Thanks for watching our video on the 10 scandalous female outlaws of the Wild West. We hope you enjoyed learning about these fierce women who defied the norms of their time. Now, it's your turn to join the conversation. What did you think of these daring outlaws? Did any of their stories surprise you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with more exciting content. We can't wait to hear from you.